Time for the third place?
Third place, yes.
I do not.
Good morning. We are on CMAP.
Good morning. CMAP.
Community Access Programming.
Yeah.
Great. we have a great first kickoff cooking demonstration with two people who are synonymous with Gilroy Garlic Festival. Greg, right?
Yep. The Melone family?
Yes,
Standing right
absolutely.
behind me.
How old, Greg, were you with the first Garlic Festival?
I believe I was 11 years old.
11 years old. And did you work at the first Garlic Festival?
Yes, I did. Unfortunately, I worked at your food booth.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh,
And
that's the one with the minestrone soup?
Yes, the
Yeah.
people thought it was Hot Friday this year, but the very first Garlic Festival was even hotter. And my mom and dad had a restaurant in town, and for some reason they decided to sell hot minestrone soup
Yeah.
at the Gilroy Garlic Festival #1.
Yes.
And we ate a lot of minestrone soup that winter.
Yeah, we sold 8 bowls on the weekend.
Yeah.
I told the staff that they could have the profits. There wasn't any.
Fortunately,
Yeah.
We switched course in the following year. You made steak on a stick,
That's right.
barbecued,
Yes.
ironically,
Yes,
and that went very well.
it did. It did. You bet. They wanted to kill me, though, because they had to break down all the top sirloins into little pieces to put on the skewer.
Yes, I
Very
believe.
labor intensive.
Yes, I believe that staff you're talking about is your other son and myself.
Yeah, that's correct. You betcha. All right. So, Dr. John and Gloria Melone, are you guys ready?
Yes.
All right.
to
Well,
go.
we got to
Yes,
give you a
sir.
little bit of introduction.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that okay? All right. I have a great story about Dr. John going back. How old were you, John, when you worked at the restaurant?
High school, so I was about 17, I'd
Yeah.
say.
Okay. Well, we're not going to say how that was.
What year it was?
But
Don't
you know,
give it
your
away,
mom,
please.
your mom
Give it
told me a
awful.
story though that when you got off the bus in Morgan Hill and your dad was waiting for you, there was a police officer that came in, a sheriff's officer that came in and said to John, "Do you know that man in that Mercedes over there that's over there?" And he said, "No." It was his father. He was only kidding, though. He
Cops
was
didn't
only
think it was so funny.
Yeah. All right. So we wanna get you started. And John, your mic is on, right?
Yes, sir.
Would you describe what you're going to do today?
We're going to be doing a barbecued pork lumpia.
Okay. And the barbecue, is it in there?
Yes, it is.
All right. And Gloria, you're going to be sous chef today.
I am sous chef.
All right. Well, I mean, for Gloria, you've cooked on with Dr. Rudy
All right.
for many
Right,
many
right.
years on the cook-off stage.
That's right.
Hasn't the stage expanded from the days when you first started?
Unbelievable. It is
Yes.
unbelievable. And
Absolutely.
it started, remember, in the kitchen. The first cook-off was in the kitchen of Gavilan College.
Gavilan College, right.
From there, you have this wonderful, beautiful stage.
All right. Yes, it is. It is. So, folks, let's give a great hand for Dr. John Melone and Mama Gloria Melone.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take it over. We'll come up
John,
with,
no, John
Great.
is the chef.
Okay.
I'm just
And
chopping
John,
and helping.
Yes.
interspersed into what you're cooking today, tell them about the barbecue, what your barbecue background is. Okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. Be happy to.
All right.
I love the barbecue. Welcome. Good morning. Happy to be here again. Good morning. And this is our 34th year of being here. My brothers and I were here the very first Gilroy Garlic Festival, and it's kind of funny we've come first full circle because for 34 years we've done escargot. Right behind you is the Enchanted Escargot booth, and for 34 years. But the very first year of the Garlic Festival,
36 years.
is it 36 years? The very first year
37 this year.
we did lumpia. How many have ever had lumpia before? Anybody? Anybody? We got any fans? Yeah. All right. So lumpia is a quintessential Filipino dish. And so I'm Filipino, and we did that the very first year. The problem was when lumpia is essentially an egg roll that's fried in oil. It's crispy on the outside, savory on the inside, and you have to have a lot of hot heat, obviously, to fry something. We were using electric woks, and the problem was in the first year, I don't know if Sam remembers, but the electricity kept going out. So we had this lukewarm oil, and the lumpia came out just soggy and pale. It was just a mess. It was a hot mess. It was terrible. So I'm hoping this year we're going to do something better for you, and we're combining one of the my favorite dishes, lumpia, with my passion, which is barbecuing. And so I've been barbecuing for over 20 years, and I've been competing at county fairs, and we were on a TV show about 3 years ago, Barbecue Pitmasters, where we went up against the world champs in pork, and we came within a point of beating the current 3-time world champ, Memphis in May, pork champion. Came within 1 point of beating her with rattlesnake and roast pork and all that kind of stuff. It was fun. But I love barbecue, and I love competition barbecue. Competition barbecue is kind of on another level compared to the barbecue that you get in barbecue restaurants. Regular restaurants don't go to the extent that competitors do. The best barbecue in the United States is eaten by barbecue judges. Any certified barbecue judges out there? I'm a Kansas City Barbecue Society certified barbecue judge. You can take a class, you can get certified to barbecue. Anyway, those guys eat the best barbecue in the United States because these competitors are, like me, obsessive compulsive, and I'm a surgeon by trade, so all of my, wow, was that some thunder? That's pretty ominous. Woo! Nice. So surgeons are obsessive compulsive, and all my obsessive compulsive nature comes out in barbecuing, and they get really nitpicky. So they take about 6 racks of ribs, they'll cook it, and they'll get the 6 most perfect pieces of ribs. They'll take that and give that to 6 judges, and they have to be perfect. It has to say everything in one bite. Your barbecue has to say everything in one bite because the judge is only going to take 1 bite. So what I'm going to try to do today is cook the pork, some pork for you, some barbecued pork. What I like to do is pulled pork. How many people like pulled pork? Anybody? Pulled pork sandwiches? I love it too. It takes about 8 to 10 hours to do a pulled pork, a pork butt, and barbecue it low and slow, 225 degrees. It'll take you about 8 or 10 hours to do that on this kettle. I didn't want to show you guys how to do an 8 or 10 hour cook, so where the question was, could I take a different cut of meat, grill it in a much shorter time, and come really close to the flavor of a pulled pork? And the answer is yes. And what we're cooking for you today is a tenderloin. It's a pork tenderloin. So let's get at it here. Let me show you how we do that. And I've come up with a way to grill a pork tenderloin so that after 45 minutes of grilling, it gets about 90% close, about 90% of the flavor that you would have had you cooked it for 8 hours. That might be hard to believe, but believe me, I've done the tests, endless tests at home. So there are a couple of tricks I'm going to show you how to get that flavor in a short period of time. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to trim a tenderloin. So the tenderloin muscle is different than the pork butt. A pork butt you've seen in the for sale in the store all the time. The pork butt really is not the butt of the pig. The pork butt is from where? Anybody? It's the shoulder. The pork butt's right from here. It's the shoulder, but it's called pork butt for some various reasons. Wow, it might rain on us, huh? Cool. So the pork butt is actually from the shoulder. What we're using here is called the pork tenderloin, not the pork loin. The loin is from the back meat right up here, and it's big, round, about this big. This is the tenderloin. If you're an anatomist like me, I've got a master's in anatomy, it's called the iliopsoas muscle. It's right in here from the pig. In the cow, this would be called the tenderloin, and that's what you would get your filet mignons from in the cow. The most tender part of the animal right here. Why? Because it hardly gets used at all. The brisket comes from the pectoral muscle right here. It gets used all the time when the animal's walking, so it's tougher. It takes a long time, 10 hours to break down a brisket. This you can grill in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and that's it, boom, done, and it's very, very tender. Long and slender like this. And so the first thing I'm going to show you is that there's a tendon right here. I don't know if you can see it, but you got to get rid of this thing.
Excuse me, can you see it?
Yep, they've got it.
I mean,
They've got it on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me show you. Here it is. There's a white band. Where's the camera? This guy? There it is. You see that white band? That's a tendon. Tendon is tough. It's connective tissue. You don't want it in your meat. If you try to give a judge, barbecue judge, anything with tendon in it, that's a guaranteed 0 for that grade. So here it is. Tendon out of there. Gone. That's pretty much it. That's all you got to worry about. There's a little bit of fat here, but that's not a problem for us. I kind of like the fat because it adds flavor and also some moisture. This is a lot different chunk of meat than your shoulder. Shoulder's got a lot of fat in it, more connective tissue, so it has a different texture. It has a slightly different flavor, and it's much moister. This is leaner. So you got to be careful when you're cooking this tenderloin. So what we're going to do here
But
is,
John, before you go on.
Yep.
Before you cut that piece of tendon.
yeah,
I had cleaned that. It has a kind of a filmy, very, very
Oh, okay.
sheer kind of filmy thing. So I had prepped that. He had asked me to do that.
oh, you
So
did.
that
You already cut
last
some of the stuff off.
piece with the
Thank you, Mom.
tenderloin. You know, the tendon is the last way to clean. Last thing to do to clean it.
Great. Thank you. So what we're going to do is, in barbecue, I believe in layering of flavors, multiple layers of flavors. So, and when I barbecue, there are 6 or 7 different layers of flavors. This is what we're going to talk about as the first layer of flavor that you can do when you barbecue. You can marinate your meat, or you can do what we do in the operating room is inject your meat. Or what you can do in what competitors do is they inject their meat. So if you go to a competition and if you're a barbecue judge and you're eating someone's pulled pork they're serving you, or brisket, it will have been injected. It will have been injected with a number of spices, some of which I'm going to share with you today. And in addition, there are some competition powders that you can buy that have a bunch of chemicals and things, and we won't get into that today. But we're going to go with a basic marinade. At home, you don't need one of these. You can put this marinade in a Ziploc bag, throw your tenderloin, it's so thin, keep it in there overnight. By the next morning, it's going to be nice and marinated. We don't have that time today, so what we are going to do is we are going to inject it, which is kind of a speed marinade. And the recipe's in the book. We've got a couple of 2 cups of apple juice here, 2/3 of a cup of cider vinegar. Okay, half a cup of brown sugar for a little bit of sweetness. Tablespoon of salt. 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. You can see we're already building up the flavors, right? 2 tablespoons of Louisiana hot sauce. Like that stuff, love it a lot. 1 tablespoon of dry mustard, a little bit of heat and flavor. And now here's a secret. You're barbecuing for 8-10 hours, you're getting a lot of smoke on the meat. We're only going 45 minutes. There's hardly any time. I'll show you some hickory chunks in there to hit it as hard as we possibly can with the smoke. And so we don't have that kind of time. So how are we going to build the smoke into it? Trick, liquid smoke. Okay, so liquid smoke, hickory liquid smoke. Is it cheating? Yes, but I'm not about cheating when it comes to flavor. I don't have a problem with that. I'll take the shortcuts when I can get it. So that's it, right there. And if you were something to stir with, a little wooden spoon
Let me.
was right here. No,
Could you have a spoon?
that's okay. I got this.
You got it?
I got this.
All right.
So in addition to this kind of stuff, this would be your basic marinade. There are some powders, some secret powders. Cosmos is one blend. Fab C is another blend. The one I use is called Butcher's Marinade. It's developed by a butcher that you could add to this. And you could even make the flavors pop more, and you could make your pork butt absorb and hang on to even more moisture. So the advantages of marinating this are: 1, flavor. You want to get the flavor deep in the meat. 2, moisture. Those are the major advantages of doing this. So we're just going to give this a little stir. That's pretty good. Okay, and we're going to take our tenderloin, and I'm going to put it in this pan here, because once we start injecting, it's going to go all over the place. So these you can get it, if you happen to want to get one of these, you can get it at Barbecues Galore. Even Safeway has some kind of cheap injectors. So let's see if you can see how we're really simple. Just give it a couple of cc's or milliliters if you prefer, like an inch apart. Even the bees like it a lot. So I like to inject with the grain because it slides the marinade goes right in with the fibers if you're going parallel to the fibers, and the fibers run along like this. So you can see, I don't know if you can appreciate, when I inject that, the meat swells up as the liquid gets incorporated into the meat. So we'll just give it a couple of squirts like this. You can do this with your pork butt. I always inject my pork butt. I always want that layer of flavor, that deep layer of flavor. You can't take a pork butt and marinate that overnight. Why not? You can, but why is that not an efficient way to get flavor into your meat? because pork butt's about this big around. It's only going to penetrate about a 1/4 inch overnight. You're not going to get much penetration in the meat. So that's why, especially with your so-called long haul meats that you're barbecuing, pork butts, briskets, injection gets you. And if you do this, it'll take your pork butt, your briskets to a completely different level, huge different level. All right, so we're just. What's that? This we got from Nob Hill. Oh my goodness, the president is here from Nob Hill.
All right. Thank you, John. John, I'm glad you said that. 'Cause
Go ahead, Sam. Go ahead.
I wanted to
It's yours.
let people know that
you
the
got the
president of
stage.
the Garlic Festival is here, but also that Nob Hill Raley's are intimately involved in the sponsorship of the Garlic Festival in many, many ways. John, and I was just going to ask you,
Yes,
we
sir.
probably could find that injector at Nob Hill Raley's too. Is that right, Vito?
Probably.
Okay.
If you
Just
can't, just
checking.
come to me. Come to my emergency room and
Yeah.
just
There you go.
ask for
Yeah.
John.
Yeah, you'll send them down a few of those. huh?
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
there you
Just
go.
ask.
All
We
right.
got sharper needles.
Hey, so folks, John, if I
Sure,
just,
go, please,
just interject
please.
for a second.
Please.
So what I didn't say in the beginning is that Gloria Melone, wife of Rudy Malone, who was the man who had the idea for the Gilroy Garlic Festival. So 36 years ago, that's when we started. But for Rudy, his idea was even earlier than that, right, Gloria?
Oh, yes, oh, yes.
You bet.
This idea actually came from an article that he read in the newspaper about a little town in France called Arleux, France, that built themselves the garlic capital of the world. It was just about a couple of inches article, item in the paper. And when Rudy read that, he said, come over here and read this thing. And we both look at each other. Garlic capital of the world, It was like, how could they call themselves garlic capital of the world? And so he decided they had a festival they wrote about. And they were bragging about having as much as 40,000 people. And so Rudy decided to write to the mayor of the place and ask about what the festival is about and what they serve and all those kind of things. And the mayor wrote back and sent us what they do. They have their specialty was garlic soup. They said that's what they served, garlic soup, and then they sent us a 15-foot braid of garlic from France. Well, I thought to myself, well, talk about, sending things to a place that, grows so much garlic. And put it in my garage and stunk my garage from the house for, because we have a lot of garlic already. What are we going to do with it?
So, Gloria, I have to share the story about the fact that when Dr. Malone came to me and said, I have this idea about the Garlic Festival, you know what my response was? That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard of in my life. Boy, was I wrong. Oh, we're getting a little, that's air conditioning, Vito, not to worry, just a little sprinkle. Yeah.
Nice.
So, because he was a New York Italian,
Yes, he was born actually in New Haven, Connecticut, but grew up in New Haven and primarily New York. Right.
Yeah.
And then Portland, Oregon.
he stayed the course, Gloria, didn't he?
Yeah.
He stayed the course. He didn't listen to us. He
No.
went ahead.
Yes, he
You
did.
betcha.
So-
All right, John.
Oh.
Yep.
Back to you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Are you open to questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, Greg.
Absolutely. Anybody got any questions?
Ooh,
Woohoo, it's raining.
Oh, this like rain. It's great. I love it. I like this show.
Has that ever
I'll
happened
take
on the
this
Garlic
anytime
Festival
over here.
cook-off stage? Woohoo. It's raining. Hey, Sam, has it ever rained on the stage before?
I don't remember.
Is that a first?
Wow.
We've had sprinkles before.
How pleasant.
Ah,
Wow.
I like it. I don't think it's gonna last that long.
Nice.
So I do have a question for John.
Did I?
No, I do.
No, you do.
Yeah, regards, everybody watches these cooking shows. We see on TV, and I'm always interested of what's going on behind the scenes. And you've been on, Pitmasters?
Pitmasters, yeah.
And you competed.
Yeah.
And could you give a little insight of what goes on behind the scenes that we don't see?
Well, it's kind of interesting. They call them reality shows. I learned a lot of things. What I learned is it's not really necessarily reality, So the producers are in charge of the show. And the producers, you sign a contract that says the producers will decide who wins, who actually wins. they can decide that, and they can determine who's going to win. So we lost by 1 point to the world champion. It's kind of a little bit questionable whether that we actually lost or not, but nah, we won't go there. But it was a lot of fun. We were in the Malibu Hills, 110-degree weather, shot over the course of 1 day from about 8 in the morning till almost midnight at night. It was just a long, long, long day. And in the episode that we were in, there was a 300-pound guy we were competing against. His team was called the Smokin' Fatties. You had to be 300 pounds to be on his team. And they were all the way from Louisiana. They weren't used to cooking in the hot weather, so he collapsed a street of heat stroke in that if you see that on TV, he collapsed. And we're doctors, so I had a surgeon team, so we all ran to us. It was all high drama. That really happened, though. It's pretty funny.
Well, so earlier we talked about reality shows, and I promised the crowd that I would try to be as controversial as possible to try to get John, the doctor. You can see what he's doing today. He uses a lot of what he practices in the surgery room on his meat, correct?
Yes, sir.
So what I would like to know, do you ever use what you cook with in the surgery room?
Saline. Yeah, salt. Saline is salt. That's a good point. Salt water. Good one. Nice one. Yeah, nice. Ooh, that was quick. I was just trying to think. No, I don't
How
go
about
from
your
like
knife techniques and things
yeah,
like that?
Yeah, I'm pretty good with a knife, so that's always good. But the blades are a lot sharper in the operating room, much sharper. I can never get it I can never get my knife scalpel sharp. I wish I could.
Sharpened, not stirred.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
I wish I
since you
could.
mentioned the use of knives, I've got to tell a story about John. Actually, John's first job was with Sam.
I'm surprised Sam didn't tell that
Was
story.
with Sam working in his restaurant, Sam's restaurant. Being the latest hire, you get the front job. Usually that happens in every job. So I guess they had him chopping onions, which, as you well know, particularly if you don't know how to make yourself not cry, there he was, his first night, chopping onions. And so he came home, and he didn't tell me, but it was afterwards that I found out about it. The next time, and it was from Sam that I found out about it, he showed up at his restaurant. He brought his goggles, his diving goggles, and no more crying, no more crying. And that is one of those nights when after his work, that his dad was going to pick him up. And it was in San Martin. And I don't know if any of you are local who know San Martin, where the bus stops. There is one street light, and he was in his Mercedes in shorts and his grubby tank top, all with paint, right, all over, sitting there waiting for his son. And that's when, the police, of course, going around, so this car sitting alone in this vast parking lot. What is this guy doing here, right? So they circled around, or they said they were circling around for several minutes, just waiting, trying to find out, what's going to happen. The bus comes and Johnny comes walking towards the car. The police are, you know this guy? No, don't know him. That's that story.
Sam was my first boss.
Yeah,
And I always think
that
when I
was
look
his
at you,
first
I always look at you. I always think of you as my boss because I can't help it. It's just I was a teenager, so it's like permanently ingrained in my life. I have to call him sir because he was my first boss. Yeah. All right, we're going to get moving on. We only have about 20 minutes left, Mom, so we're going to pick it up. I'm going to ask
So what do
you,
you want?
Mom, to do the coleslaw and
Okay,
the
want me
dipping
to do that
sauce.
now? Okay.
And what I'm going to show you now is we're going to keep moving on. So this is nicely injected, the tenderloin is, and I've dried it off nicely. So that was the first layer of flavor. So we talk about different layers of flavor. I love using a mustard slather on everything I barbecue. If you Google barbecue mustard slather, you'll come up with a dozen different recipes. My favorite is a triple mustard using brown mustard, Dijon mustard, and regular mustard, and a bunch of different spices. But you can just use plain old yellow hot dog mustard if you want. What we're using here today is Dijon. Really like it. Has that kind of like horseradish flavor in it, and it's just thin layer. So this is just another light layer of flavor. But when you eat the barbecue, I don't want you to say, wow, I like that mustard. No, I want that to be in the background. The whole idea is multiple layers of flavor, none of which stands out, which is called what? Balance. So I'm looking for balance. So this is the second layer of flavor that's going on this today. It's just a nice little thin. Not only is it good for a flavor, it's kind of a glue to which the next step, the third layer of flavor, which is the rub, will stick to. Okay, so just a nice layer. Any old mustard will do. You can get really creative here. Thank you very much. You can get really creative. There are tons of mustards out there, and if you go to the mustard section, if any of you guys have been there recently, there's a dozen different mustards. So you can get nutty, beer mustards, all kinds of flavors. Okay, there you go. So that's your mustard layer, your second layer of flavor. Your third layer of flavors is the rub. So this is just a straightforward rub, nothing special. No secret. People think, there's a special secret in the sauce, secret in the rub. It's all secret ingredients. I'm here to tell you, I've tried dozens and dozens of different rub flavors. They're almost all essentially the same. They all have the basic sugar, salt, paprika, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, chili powder, pretty much all the same. This is a basic one with salt, sugar, garlic powder, onion powder, some paprika, chili powder, some cayenne, some cumin as well. Just a real basic rub. So we're just gonna sprinkle that on. Just like that. Okay. You can see how it sticks pretty nicely. I'm going to save a little bit of this rub because I want to, when we chop this up, I want to add a little bit of this for flavor to the pork. So I'm going to save a little bit of rub. That's it. That's your third layer of flavor. Okay, very good. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this on the pit, or I call it the pit, the grill, whatever you want to call it. And we have there cooking for the past 30 minutes already one of these. So you're going to get to see what it looks like 30 minutes ahead of time. So let's do this. You got to love this. Look at how beat up this is. This is beautiful. Look at this. This has been here on the cook-off stage. I think I've cooked with this, Sam, for at least six years or 8 years. Last 2 years ago, we cooked a garlic bacon bomb on this thing. 2 years before that, I did a smoked salmon on a bed of garlic mashed potatoes with sauteed spinach. It was just yummy, yummy. One of my favorite things to make. So here we go. Let's pull this off. And we're just going to set this bad boy right here. And I am going to temp that and see if it's where we want it.
John,
So-
the first one you have on it has the mustard on it, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
This one looked like that 30 minutes ago. So just a couple of things I'm just going to bring out here. This is an indirect method of cooking. When you're barbecuing, the purists will say that barbecuing is indirect. It's low and slow. Some will say as low as 180 degrees. Some will say 225. Some will go to 275 when you're doing low and slow. Some say the perfect temperature, Harry Sue, 3-time West Coast champion, 275 is his temperature for ribs. It caramelizes better, it cooks better, renders the fat better. So this, I'm shooting for a 225 degree temperature. By putting the coals, you can see where the coals are, right? You can see it's off to the side. So if you have a Weber like this, you can cook championship barbecue on a Weber. There are people that have won world championships on Webers. You just put all the coals off to one side, and you put the meat you want to cook here. The only problem with this is you have to add coal to that every, say, hour and a half. You're going to keep adding briquettes. That's kind of a hassle. There's other kinds of cookers, we won't get into it, where you don't have to keep adding it to it. You can see there, maybe you can see the stuff that's flaming up. That's just a couple of chunks of hickory, not flakes or not. You can buy in the stores. You can buy chips. Yeah. Chips will burn up like that.
Burn too fast.
Chips will burn too fast. So these chunks will burn for about an hour and a half. So that's hickory. So this is that third layer of, let's see, mustard, marinade, rub. Fourth layer of flavor is your smoke. And this is in the charcoal and the wood flavor that you're getting into the barbecue. So that's been cooking about 30 minutes. What I'm looking for is an internal temp. An internal temp of, I'd like to see 140. Well, looks like we are there almost.
John, could you comment on why you chose hickory? We hear about
Good
fruit
question.
woods and different woods.
Good question. Boy, that you could talk for an hour on, even that, just woods. But we won't. Right, love woods. Different woods give you different flavors. And almost any fruit wood you could use. I love cooking with, I like to mix up my woods actually, because to add complexity to that fourth layer. So I like mixing oak, hickory, and a fruit would like apple or cherry works really great. One of my favorite combinations is hickory and apple. But when I really want to get fancy, I'll throw oak in there as well. Good, this is about 140 degrees. This is almost perfect. If I pull this off right now, the carryover temp, it's going to continue to rise for another few minutes. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull that
That
off.
probe came right out of the operating room. I want you to know that.
Thank you.
I'll make a joke about probes, but I'm just not. Sorry, Sam. No, I won't. No, I'm just. This is. If this
Family
were the
show, John?
yes, the family show. If this were the operating room, I would, but no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Hey, John, while you're walking back there, can you comment on rubs? You hear guys talking about dry rubs versus wet marinade.
Ah, good,
Can you
good.
make a comment on that?
Golly, Greg, you know a lot. What you're a secret barbecuer or
family.
something? God, you know about this stuff. You're asking the right questions. So, right, you can have a dry rub, you can have a wet rub. Really makes not a whole lot of difference. Some people, essentially, a wet rub is just a dry rub with some moisture in it. And so the advantage with that is you can essentially paint it on. And some people will argue that you get better penetration of your flavors with a wet rub. So what I'm doing here is the air holes here on top are opposite the meat. So the fire is here. By putting the air holes on top opposite the fire, you're pulling the heat and the smoke across your meat, which cooks it better. Great. All right.
So I just want to wake up, Doctor. Not Doctor. You're awake, Doctor.
Yes, sir.
I want
Yes.
President Vito Mercado over here. Did you go to church this morning? Did you pray for the rain? It's only light, right?
We
It's
only
just
have
settling the dust.
We have about 10 to
Yeah.
15
Roy Shackle.
Okay.
So we're gonna-
is
Roy, are
this the
you
one
in charge of
wanted?
emergency?
What about this? Is
Yeah, that's
this?
perfect.
Yes.
Oh, you want it smaller?
No, no,
Everything's
Just throw
cool,
in some
right?
of that and then
Okay.
we'll
Yes,
throw it
sir.
How much?
Throw in there.
Just 1 carrot?
Yeah, 1 carrot's fine.
Don't
I
wash your
forgot
car.
to start it.
Not today.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
plenty.
Good
We
idea.
just want to mix it up in a bowl.
All right.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Well,
anybody
they
in
don't
the
have
crowd
it,
has a
no.
question
Do you need a bowl?
for John about barbecuing or anything?
Why don't I just use this?
We
Just
need to
use
mix
that
it.
one. Yeah, I'll mix it.
Need to mix it.
Can't
Was there-
find Kingsford hickory chips.
Can't find Kingsford hickory chips.
You can
Wow.
get them at Nob Hill.
You can get them at Nob Hill. I saw them there last night.
Yeah.
And yep, you can get them at Nob Hill. Yes, you can. I'm not going to mention that. Nice try, though. Vito's in the house. I'm not going to mention the competitor.
Any other questions? Yes. Yes, let me tell you.
Good
Very
question.
good. Did we practice this? Did we rehearse this today? No, we didn't. We have this book, this wonderful book with all the recipes from the 3 days on the cook-off stage for $7. So let's hear from, where are our booksellers? They're probably, yeah. If we could have those booksellers out here.
Together in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
Could we get Denise?
Good
Can we
enough?
find a
Yeah,
bookseller?
Or is this too much?
Wonderful
Probably
question.
too
Thank
much
you.
of this.
Okay,
We'll
just
use
put
half
the
of
one.
this,
And
half of this.
Dr. John and Gloria's recipe
that's
are in
about
that
all we
book
need.
of the
That's about all
lumpia.
we need.
One of my favorite
More
dishes is
carrots?
lumpias. And they'll be
little
right
bit,
out in
little bit.
$7.
Okay. Then
Thank you,
you're gonna
Denise.
add the quarter cup of cider vinegar to that and the salt and pepper. All right. So we've only got 10 to 15 minutes left, and we still got a couple of steps to go. So we're just gonna speed it up here, if it's okay with you folks. So what we're gonna do here is, if this was a pulled pork right now, what I'd be doing is, I'd be shredding it. Why? Because it'd be so tender after 8 or 10 hours, you'd just be able to pull it apart with a couple of forks. This you cannot pull apart. It's only been cooking for about 30 minutes, and it's not that tender. So what we're going to do is apply the technique to it that you would see if you went to a barbecue restaurant in Northern Carolina. So of the 4 different major barbecue capitals throughout the United States, there's Texas, Memphis, Kansas City, and North Carolina. Each style is different. They use different rubs, different sauces, maybe sauce, maybe not, different woods. They tend to emphasize different meats. In North Carolina, the pork reigns in North Carolina, and they cook their pigs whole, and they smoke it. They're barbecue it, low and slow. It takes them a good 16, 18 hours to cook it. And what they do with the meat is they don't pull it in North Carolina. Everybody's very proud of how they treat their barbecue, right? They chop it. So if you go to a barbecue shop, place, restaurant in North Carolina and you order pork, pulled pork. You can call it pulled pork, but what they have are two big old cleavers. And they just go bam, 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 bam. And they just chop that whole, all the meat of the pig, they'll chop it up and they'll serve it to you, mixing all the different parts of the body. So this is what we're going to do, is we're just going to chop this. We're not going to pull it. We're just going to slice it and we're going to chop it. And that's got a real nice, oh yeah, I can smell them. Yeah, that's got a great smell. So all those ingredients that we put in there are coming through now. Okay. So Mom, we're going to be ready to roll here, roll some lumpia here in a second. Mom, we'll be ready to roll some lumpia here in a second.
Oh, okay.
So we'll need the
Was this your cider vinegar?
negative. No, that's the regular vinegar. I'll show you where the
Okay.
cider vinegar is. It's right.
So that recipe that she talked about, along with the award winners from yesterday and all the 8 finalists are all in that book right there
There's the cider
for $7.
Here it is.
And it's a great one.
Okay.
It really is. It has many recipes, including, where's my twin brother? Are you up there? Raise your hand, twin brother. Right there. My twin brother and I have a recipe in that book. So you got to get it. Plus you got
Yeah.
Dr. John and Gloria Malone's recipe in there, plus the winners from yesterday. And the only ones we don't have in there, Greg, are the what? Which ones? Today's.
From today, in
Yeah.
the middle of the day, from 12 to 2 o'clock, there is a cooking contest, showdown.
Yeah.
And nobody knows what those recipes are yet. They don't
Yeah.
know until they arrive today. So
Yeah.
come back for that show.
But Dewey Lucero's recipe is in there, in that book, right?
He is, and he's getting ready.
And he's getting ready, and he'll be on and at 11 o'clock. And Dewey Lucero from Lucero Olive Oil Company in Corning, California. When you go north on Highway 5, you got to stop at Lucero Olive Oil. It's not an advertisement. It's just a wonderful place to visit, and it's a great olive oil. Okay,
All
John,
righty.
how you doing?
We're doing great. So, you see here, this is yummy stuff. Boy, this tastes great. I wish you could taste this, guys. But you've got here essentially pulled pork, chopped pork, with all the flavorings that we added to it. And then so commonly, what folks will do is before you serve it, before you go on, you'll just drizzle a little bit of barbecue sauce on it. So here's one of my sauces, just a little bit for flavor.
John,
Just-
that's your own sauce, is
Yes,
that
sir.
right? John, if you had a sauce that because you were in trouble and you couldn't make it up in time, is there any one that you would go to?
Oh, there's tons. You mean
Lots of
store bought?
them? Yeah, store-bought,
I mean if I was
yeah.
walking in Nob Hill and I wanted to
bet.
buy a sauce?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. There's a lot of great sauces out there. Oh, there's tons. Right. So Everett and Jones makes a good sauce. Kind of expensive, $5 for a little bottle,
Yeah,
but
you bet.
well balanced sauce. I could almost drink that out of the bottle. Sweet Baby Ray's makes a really good balanced sauce that actually I don't like the flavor out of the bottle, but when you put it on the meat, it complements the meat very nicely. And they've got brown sugar, hickory, all kinds of different
Great.
flavors.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
but,
you.
right.
Probably you can get those at Nob Hill, huh?
Yeah,
Or
I bet.
Rayleigh's.
So here comes a little bit of that. We're going to add a little bit of that rub here too as well for some more flavor, right? So just amping this up. So when you bite into that lumpia, you're just going to have huge flavor. All right. So this is ready. And Mom, you've got the coleslaw ready?
Yes.
Excellent. So we are about ready to roll some lumpia here.
As they get ready to roll those lumpias,
Yep.
as my dad said, next is Dewey Lucero from Lucero Olive Oil Company. He's going to be cooking at around 11 o'clock.
All right.
So Dewey's going to give a brief
Let's do it.
description of what he's got.
Shall we do it over there,
So
Mom?
I'm going to be cooking up our famous hazelnut brownie
I'm gonna move over there.
mix.
I'm gonna
And
move over there.
what's special about this is we're putting a little spin on it. We have a really nice, smooth mandarin orange olive oil that we do. We actually crush it with mandarin oranges and olives.
We'll
So
roll
I
right
blend
here.
that in, and I'm cheating a little bit because I have to make it easy on myself because I have to talk and cook, which I haven't done a lot of. So I'm doing that today, and then in addition to that, I'm going to try and educate you as much as I can on extra virgin olive oil in California.
All right. Thank you, Dewey.
Okay. Let's start
I've got
rolling.
it.
The wrappers? You got them. Okay, good. So we're going to start rolling with lumpia wrappers. I don't think they're carrying this in Nob Hill.
Oh, where did you
Lumpia
get it?
wrappers. You You got to go.
The pressure is on.
No, I really don't. I really don't. You got to go to kind of an Asian store.
Asian store. Okay.
Yeah, Ranch 99 or
Safeway
something
has
like that.
it, like
Safeway, those
Ranch 89.
really? Safeway might.
In San Francisco.
Right. So
they
this
do.
is it. This is just essentially a wrapper. You can get them in different sizes. This is the size that we like. Mom, I'm gonna have you show them how to do that, and I'll get the.
Okay.
the-
Well, I want you to show me how much you want to put in.
Okay, sure. So,
It's your dish.
good. And so you just start with a little bit of the meat, maybe a tablespoon or
Fine.
so, maybe a little more, like that. I've experimented with a lot of different vegetables, and this is what worked out best. It's just straight up coleslaw. It's a vinegary coleslaw. The more vinegary, the better to offset the richness and the savoriness of the meat. So this is coleslaw with just all it has: salt, pepper, and some cider vinegar in there. Start in one corner, kind of tighten it up a little bit, roll it like this. We'll need a little water to finish this off, Mom.
Okay.
The
Get
corner
some
off.
water.
Just a little water in that
Okay.
little measuring cup will work. Fold off one corner, fold up the other corner, just roll it like that. Boom, you're done. My brothers and I used to roll hundreds of these when we were kids for parties that Mom and Dad were doing. So I've done this since I was a kid. So then you just finish this off with a
Yeah.
little bit of water. You can add some cornstarch to that if you want,
Or
but essentially,
egg white.
or egg white, or
egg,
flour.
yeah. Egg,
Yeah. So a little water here to wet that edge there. Just roll it and finish it up. Bam, you're done. So there's one. Like that. Let's just do another one real quick. So this is classic Filipino food. Takes a lot of time to make, and you eat it, you can devour this in like seconds.
I have to say that when we make the lumpia originally, we use a much thinner wrapper that you can find in some Asian stores, but you can find this thicker one, which is really a Chinese wrapper in other stores like Safeway. I know in San Francisco carries it. But it's originally the recipe calls are much paper thin, actually. Paper thin thickness
Okay, there's
of
another one. Boom, done. So
wrapper.
I'm gonna go ahead and get the oil going
Okay.
on the stove.
Can you guys talk about the origin and maybe the history of the lumpia? You know, these days there's a lot of Asian food that's popular. Pot
want-
stickers, gyozas, lumpias.
Do you want to say something
Rolls.
about that, Mom?
Oh, I really don't know how the origin of it. I noticed that there are quite a number of Asian cultures that have an egg roll, like the Chinese egg roll, but the Philippine version, of course, is a meat. And actually, the original version is my mother's version is meat, pork, ground pork, and ground shrimp, and what do you call it? Water chestnuts. And that's what the feeling is. But different people, it's just like paella or stew. You know, families have kind of different versions of what they put in it. So some families are like vegetarian. You notice that this one broke, and that's what I don't prefer this wrapper, but maybe because it has been in, it got a little bit dry. But
All right, we're gonna knock out a couple more
you
of these
can
and
really
fry 'em.
put all kinds of stuffing in it that you want. If you're vegetarian, we have a vegetarian lumpia version where they use green beans, cut green beans, peas, potatoes, all green bean sprouts. So different kinds of really what you like. It's really this is a kind of a different for me wrapper to use.
Yeah, it is.
As I'm used
It's
to
a little
one
bit
that
thick.
sticks right. It's
Yeah.
so thick. It's
Yeah.
thick. I'm used to the Philippine wrapper, which is thinner and easier to adhere.
Kind of falling apart a little bit.
Yeah, it's falling apart because I think it dried up
Plus,
too.
it dried up. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably dried up a
I
little
just
bit.
use my fingers here.
Yeah. Excellent.
John, when you're finished with that, then it goes into a frying pan.
Then we're gonna frying pan's here, and it'll take just a second to fry.
Okay, and
So-
then what kind of oil are you using?
Just canola oil.
And that's okay. Not peanut oil is okay.
You can use
Doesn't-
peanut oil.
You can.
Some people
okay.
prefer that it's a more neutral, cleaner. Some people say a little cleaner flavor.
Great.
Yeah, but you vegetable oil, canola oil, you wouldn't want to use. You would not want to use olive oil.
Olive oil.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, some use peanut oil
Yes.
because
We're gonna wrap
I
it
don't
up.
know this for sure, but I heard somewhere that it has a higher
Okay.
temperature, which is higher temperature,
Good.
which
So I
makes
think
for
it's
a quicker.
it's about 10 till. Sam, is that right? 10 till. So we're gonna wrap it up here pretty quick.
10 till.
Yep. We want to wrap it up. Okay, so I'm gonna start frying some of these here for you.
Yeah.
It should
And
be
you
up to
fried
temp,
that already.
and we'll go back and we'll fry some of these guys.
A slurry of flour and water,
Probably
you
work
know, or
better.
cornstarch
Okay.
would also be very good to use to kind of seal it.
Okay, it's not quite hot enough yet. We're gonna get that oil hot. It should be up to temp in about 1 minute, and I'm going to turn these guys. I'm gonna use this.
Okay, while we're waiting for that lumpia to be in the frying pan, Dennis Harrigan, past president. Dennis, come on up here for a second. You're cooking we have 2 stages for cooking today, folks. Next one is Dewey Lucero here, but we have another series of cooking demonstrations over on what we call the demo stage in Gourmet Alley. Dennis, what are you cooking today?
I'm going to do 2 dishes today over there. One's a pizza, and it's using 3 different types of Lucero olive oil. The other one is a vinaigrette, also using 3 different types of olive oil. But the pizza is
we can make
a
the
blue
dipping
cheese,
sauce afterwards.
caramelized onion, white nectarine, maple bacon pizza topped with a spinach, and it's done on a grill. So it's really easy to do if you get to prep it up. And my vinaigrette is using his Meyer and mandarin olive oils and a lemon balsamic. And so if you want to come over at 3 o'clock, that's great. But if you want to preview this guy, I will be helping Carla here at 12 on the showdown as her backup color commentator, which I did last year, and I guess I did okay. She didn't fire me, so.
Thank you, Dennis. Carla Hall today. She'll be on stage at 12 o'clock, right, Dennis? Starting. And we have the great professional chef showdown with the $5,000 first prize.
Drying
That'll be
out.
at 12 o'clock. Coming up next is Dewey Lucero
good enough, Mom.
and his cooking. And what we just experienced
that's good
today
enough.
from Gloria Melone and John Malone is a wonderful lumpia. It's
Okay.
one of my favorite dishes.
Done there.
But I have to tell you, it's called
All right.
Pearl's Barbecued Pork Lumpia with garlic dipping sauce. And that is in the cookbook, and the cookbook is $7. And
All right,
all of the
it's ready.
recipes that are presented here on stage are in there,
I'm gonna start
except
frying.
Greg, for the
The showdown today at 12 o'clock,
All right.
which will be hosted by Carla Hall
yes,
at 12 o'clock, and that recipe is not in there because nobody knows what they are yet.
yeah.
So at 12 to 2 o'clock today, there will be a rather popular cooking contest. So if you can get here early, most of these chairs will fill up. So 12 o'clock,
Okay.
12 to 2 o'clock today.
Yep, you bet. And Dr. John, you're wrapping that up with some lumpias, and we'll see the finished product, won't we? Before
Absolutely. In
You go
about,
over
Okay,
there
good
and
deal.
grab that.
about 1 minute. These are frying nicely. Let's just leave these there. We'll just do 4 so we don't get the pan too cold, Mom.
Okay.
So this should be ideally at about 375 degrees. It's not quite there with the temp, but it is frying.
Hey, John, while you're doing the frying, could you talk about the dipping sauce?
Right.
We haven't
so
heard much about that yet.
That's great. So the dipping sauce, essentially with fried lumpia, classically the dipping sauce is pretty straightforward. It's vinegar, some chopped garlic, and I like to put salt and pepper. But for this recipe, I take that, just straight white vinegar, salt and pepper, and I put about a tablespoon of barbecue sauce into it. Kind of livens it up a little bit.
All right.
So just really super simple, and you just dip the lumpia in that. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Let's see. That's an interesting,
Ah,
sticking to the bottom of the pan. That's an interesting move.
We didn't have a chance yet to talk a little bit more about Dr. Rudy Malone,
Yes,
his father.
absolutely.
So earlier in the show, we talked about John's father. He was one of the original idea of the Gilroy Garlic Festival. And what's interesting about that is he was not from Gilroy originally. So it took someone to come from outside Gilroy to convince the people in Gilroy to have a garlic festival. And as my dad said earlier, he was one of the people that said, that's a ridiculous idea. And the first year of the garlic festival was at a ranch on the outside of town. And it was an immediate success. Did not get the amount of people that it got today, but it got way more than everybody thought. And what's interesting is that he also had a unique idea about this nonprofit organization. Is that as you guys look around this festival today, you'll see people in pink shirts. They're all volunteers. They're on different committees. And they're only allowed to stay at the top of their committee for 2 years, and they have to move on. And that's what some people believe that makes this festival fresh and has longevity, is because nobody's allowed to stay a long time. So for example, you might volunteer 10 or 12 years and you will become
Are you
president.
making
You
the
have
dipping
1
sauce?
year,
Okay.
and then you are asked to politely leave. To make room for other people to share their ideas, to have the same experience as others, and keep fresh ideas coming to the Garlic Festival. So it turns out, you know more about that than I do, that philosophy of shared equity and volunteerism has been spread around other festivals around the country.
Absolutely, yeah. We're a model for many, many food festivals in the United States. And it's that whole idea that it's not just one person, it's many people, but we want to share in those ideas and people passing on, going on into other roles. Many of the people that are here today in those shirts have worked for the festival for many years. They fulfill positions as committee chairs and maybe even president of the festival, but then they come back and they do more. It's very infectious in terms of you get real committed, and that's been the success of the festival. The different ideas and the new people that we bring in. It's not a closed organization by any means.
Well, I remember I was always inspired by John Blattler. I'm not sure if he's out here today, but he was a president years and years and years ago. And about 6 years after that, I saw him volunteering picking up
that's good
trash.
enough.
So that's the type of organization that this is.
Well, let me go up to the top of the deck here. My twin brother, Gene Sakahara, would you stand up for a second and in a real loud voice, because you're a past principal and you had yard duty, right?
Put it in there, we'll put that
So
on the
what
tray.
did you do when you first started with the Garlic Festival many years ago? Yeah. And now what is your current position? Yeah. Thank you. Security, please. All right.
So John's doing something over here, putting a secret.
Oh, a
Yeah.
little secret sauce there, John?
So we are nearly done, and Mom just chopped some garlic. Classic. This is the classic sauce, dipping sauce. It's a garlic dipping sauce right here, straight up. And then so what I'll do is I'll just take about a tablespoon of barbecue sauce to amp it up and mirror the southern fusion part of this. And it just amps up the flavors a little bit. And we've got some ready here. We're going to plate it for you. There we go. That's the color we want. Nice golden color.
Oh boy, Greg.
And we'll show this to you out
Oh, look
front
at
here in
that.
a second. Mom, do you want to keep frying these?
Yeah, I'll do
Okay.
it.
All righty.
One of the questions people always ask is, how can they try that?
Right. Good question. Unfortunately, we can't share it with you folks. It's a health department thing. That's just
breaking up.
not us. It's just every festival they want to be precautious about what gets traded back and forth. So, but we do let the volunteers go in the back and they get to taste it. So there are, if something happens, we'll let it happen to them, but not you. We value you so much. You're the ones that make this festival very, very important to us, because that money that goes into the festival from you goes back to our 180 nonprofit
front.
organizations in the community. So that's it. Oh, okay, John, let's
There it
take a
is.
look at that.
Here it is, Sam. If you guys want to get that on the camera.
Let's get
So
it-
there it is.
yeah.
That's Pearl's barbecue pork lumpia. I don't see Pearl, my daughter, here anymore. She was here a little bit earlier. They must have gone back to the booth to work with a garlic dipping sauce. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Dr. John Malone and John's mother, Gloria Malone, wife of Dr. Rudy Malone, founder of the Gilroy Garlic Festival, with Don Christopher. Where's Don Christopher? He's here in the plate. We'll get him up here when Dewey Lucero is here.